growing up in Calcutta in those days was this, as my mom used to say, simple living and high thinking. Just take up even a hobby that you're good at, whether it's, I don't know, bake cookies, sell them to your neighbor. You might get 300 rupees, but it's going to be the most satisfying 300 rupees you will earn. Respect, especially in business, is earned.
Right.
Respect in life in general has to be earned. This is one of the biggest lessons to be learned and imparted, honestly. Well, we've all addicted to our phones and this Instagram and this constant scrolling. Young children today, I think, are under so much pressure. We, as a society, we women are treated differently.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows the kind of work I do sometimes. It's all fluff and I'm running around in Dior frocks and partying, and that's the image. But honestly, come see what I do all day. At my age and stage of my life, I am on a healthy people diet,
Okay.
you know.
That's well said. Yeah. Hi, Kalyani, and welcome to the About Her Show. This is a show where we get trailblazing women to share the story of their lives with us, to tell us about their successes, failures, challenges, ups and downs, all of it, so that not only do they get a platform to showcase themselves, but they also help us inspire other women. Women who are listening in, who've had dreams, ambitions, but for some reason have not been able to or are not able to, follow them. And this can be a huge source of inspiration. And along with women, we also get men on the show, men who champion such women. And looking at your profile and the various things, so many things that you've done, of course, we had to get you on the show. And if I may say, it's an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on the About Her show. So, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. I love the title About Her.
Thank you.
And yeah, that is of immediate interest, I think, to any woman or man for that matter. Yeah, lovely. I'm so
Thank,
happy to be here.
thank you so much. So then just let's dive in and with a question I'm sure you've been asked several times before, but which we also need to ask for our viewers and listeners, which is, if you could tell us about a little bit about your early life, your childhood, and how all this happened, your journey with Dior, then your own brand, and then of course Netflix. So it's a long story, but we would really love to hear what you have to say.
Wow, Sangeeta, do we have so much time? I I'm going to give you a gist. I'm from Calcutta, a very vociferous and a very, very proud Bengali.
Mhm.
And I think anyone who knows me knows that. And I'm very, very proud of the lineage that I come from. My grandparents actually, I'm a product. And today, whatever I am is because of them and the values that they kind of imparted on me. I was the first grandchild from both sides of my parents, my mom's side and my dad's, and very, very spoiled. But being spoiled those days was about attention, love, having time to, impart their knowledge on me. It was a very different time. There was no social media, there were no distractions, and family values were very, very strongly inculcated. I've grown up in a joint family. I lived with my great grandmother, my grandparents, and but that was my mom, obviously father's side. But, my mother's parents were a huge factor, and we spent at least 2, 3 days a week with them, and it was a very strong family kind of bond that I have grown up with, and I think this joint family, which is less and less these days because everyone's going neutral, kind of nuclear families. I think the joy of being in a joint family it's a different value system altogether, And I grew up in Calcutta and went to school there, and my school friends till today are possibly my most precious friends. The only WhatsApp group I think I have are with my school friends. I abhor WhatsApp groups. I just can't stand them because I have so many for my various groups for my work. There's production, boutique, this, that.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And I think growing up in Calcutta in those days was this, as my mom used to say, simple living and high thinking. We
Hmm.
used to read a lot. We went to the theater. We watched plays. My parents had people over, and somebody would start reading Pablo Neruda from the shelf,
Wow.
or my mother would sing Robindra Sangeet, and that was the kind of and then that's how we grew up. My mother also, I mean, not so much my siblings. She would teach me so much every day because she was this incredibly talented person. And there was a lot of interest in art always. So I've grown up with art around me. I mean, Calcutta and we Bengalis, we have this whole superiority complex of, culture vultures, which I think is well earned. And we've grown up, with art and theater, etc., which was actually part of our daily life. And
Hmm.
I was very, very lucky to have the kind of parents who actually made it a point to make sure that, like, that we read, and we read the right books, for example, and there was no forcing, but it just, I think it was just either you read or do what else. There was nothing else to do. There was no television. We watched Krishi Darshan. So it was a very, very charming kind of time that one has grown up in. I feel like a dinosaur saying this, but honestly, there were innocent times, and I played a lot of sports, the club culture in Calcutta. So, one went for tennis and swimming every day almost to the club where you also met your friends. I was always very social. I loved meeting people. I just love people, and I think most people love me, I think. And no, I just have this whole. I like to interact, and I find it very interesting to have conversations. I've also been grown up in Calcutta, Sangeeta, and the school that we went to, went to a missionary school. There were my peers were from all kinds of background, and
Hmm.
one never differentiated, one never knew the difference, whether it was religious, whether it was someone may have, I mean, I had a friend whose house, her doll house was in her garden almost as big as the house itself, like, and then I've had friends who lived in a one bedroom, and I went there and sat on the floor and ate the most delicious food, which her mom cooked for us, so but one never thought about these things, and one never thought about religious differences for sure. There was Bengalis and non-Bengalis only because I went to a Bengali class and the rest of them went to a Hindi class. And later, of course, we had a third language, which is Sanskrit. And but the thing is that there were very different times, and I think the exposure that we had also during that time was, again, I say, of great value.
Hmm.
And I think because of which the mindset was very different.
Yeah.
I came to Delhi about 28 years ago. I was living in Madras. My first job was with Oberoi Hotels, and I always wanted to work. I had this whole thing. We were never given pocket money, we always had to earn. I mean, my mother said, you want pocket money, okay, earn it. So good grades was number one. My
Hmm.
mother had this chart, I still remember, for my sister and me, and she used to make these little, she had these gold stars,
Hmm.
and it was 1 to 5, and there were different columns, whether it was, on a weekly basis. So every Sunday we used to get our stars. It was really cool. And
Hmm.
then we used to earn that little bit of pocket money. And then there were other things like, uh, my grandfather used to say, okay, come to the office and you can file the cabinets and organize. And just you always had to earn something. It wasn't just given to us. And thank God for that, because I've implemented that in my daughter today, who's very mindful, very, very mindful. And thank goodness for that. So,
Hmm.
we were never, we so then, yes, so I went, that was my childhood, it was so enriching and so beautiful. I'm really, really so fortunate to have had the best childhood. And of course, a great grandmother, my grandparents, my two of my grandmothers who were extremes, you know. My nani, she was this quintessential Bengali with a lal par shadi and sindoor and Marlene Dietrich hair and cocktail pans every afternoon after lunch. But she was this housewife, and she was the best cook in the world. And my parents used to travel a lot, and they used to leave us with our nani, and our nani used to come and stay, and oh, best food ever. But she was an amazing writer, because my grandfather
Mm.
was very apolitical, and the Nepalese Congress was born in my house. I've grown up with all the historical luminaries. Like, let's not get into that, but I really, really, I mean, I didn't know they were my grandfather's friends, but now I'm like, wow, like seriously, these are the people I used to meet all the time in my grandfather's house. And so he was a writer, and he used to write a lot. And my grandmother every afternoon would quietly sit and edit them. There was no word spoken between them, but she would, in a little pencil, So there was a lot of education,
Mm.
no matter, it was a lot of interest and lot of how do I say, importance given to that. And education, not generally, it wasn't just about books or getting good grades, but there was an education on a very wholesome basis, if you know what I mean. They were
Yeah.
of different kinds of values that we were surrounded by. So when I joined Oberoi Hotel, it was my first job. I was interviewed by Mr. Oberoi himself, and it was probably the foundation of what was later to come, because the kind of training that I got
Mm.
with him, I was fortunate enough that he was around, and he used to come from, AGMs. When I went from Obra Grand, where I started working, then I went to set up the first Trident Hotel. I was in sales and marketing, basically. And of course, I broke many records, and, it was amazing. And he was super upset when I was leaving Obra Hotels. I still remember him calling me. He called me for dinner, and he was in at the Trident for an AGM, and he says, "Miss Saha." He was so amazing, and yeah, he was very he was, I think, in so many ways such a mentor, because honestly, I learned what luxury is all about and what it entails, and how a luxury client is to be treated, how and what they need, what they want, and and what do you do to make it happen. And it literally was the foundation of everything that came later in so many ways. So that was my first job. Then I went on to run 4 magazines for Indian Express while I was in Madras, actually. I'd gone from Calcutta to Madras to set up the first Trident Hotel, part of the team.
Yeah.
And then I was with Indian Express for completely diverse magazines. I had no idea how I did what I did. But, Sangeeta, I've been very fortunate that I've got the opportunities that have come my way, firstly. And
Mm.
the risks that I have taken with those opportunities, because I've always said, okay, why
Yeah.
not? Let me try it. And
Mm.
I made more mistakes than anybody else, I know. But those mistakes through my life have
Yeah.
been my biggest lessons.
Yeah.
And this is something I talk about all the time, that be prepared to make the mistakes, be prepared to fail, because that will teach you more than something you take for granted, which just happens and it's all gung ho.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
after Indian Express, I came to Delhi, and my parents have a home here. So I was staying here for a while, and where I currently live, actually. And I met my Vishal, my Tahira's father, my daughter, and we are divorced actually now. But anyway, we have a great relationship. But I came to Delhi, and I was doing corporate gifts, which was a huge big business at that time for me. And then I went into fashion. I opened a boutique simultaneously in Calcutta. That is my grandfather's way of calling me back home. So he gave me literally the guard's room, which was tiny, and I opened this multi-stall lifestyle little store. And because I was in Madras, I used to source a lot of things from the south. So the I started sourcing Tanjore paintings and glass paintings, Mysore glass paintings while I was in the south, and that was in a way my foray into the art world. And apart from the fact that I designed clothes, which I got made, and all these artifacts that I used to pick up from the south, which was not available in Calcutta. So I started this lifestyle store called Kalyani,
Mm-hmm.
very original. But I had left Calcutta by then. And then I came to Delhi, and I think I always, from my grandfather, he was a businessman, he was the pioneer of battery manufacturer in India. So I had that little sense of business inside me always, and always wanted to be financially independent. And, I wanted that for myself since I was a kid, and um, I started actually working in the art. Started actually having these exhibitions. The first one to actually promote some young artists from Calcutta, Art Seeker, because they used to supply me with paintings here and there to keep in my store, which I used to say, saying, now think, Didi, now you're in Delhi, why don't you do something in Delhi for us? So I'm like, yeah, sure. So I had this exhibition, I remember, in Delhi, my mom and I, and by then I was actually separated from, I was on the verge of separation from my husband at that time. And Daira was very, very small. And I started working, I started the art business while I was married, actually, but really got into it after, because my mother was spending a lot of time with me from Calcutta to Delhi. And I said, okay, this will also keep her busy, because she is actually the one with great knowledge about art. She went to Shantiniketan, and the days of the Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, and all that. And we started doing this business. And the first art exhibition was Art Seeker, with all these young artists. We had 90, it was funnily enough, 99 works of art. I sold 98 in the preview. And it was like, oh, wow. And I'm saying, this could be good business. And then, of course, I opened a gallery. It was called Montage Arts with my mother. And we used to keep a variety of artists, contemporary Indian art, lot of Bengal art. And my mother was very passionate about actually, now, of course, there's a lot, but, at that time, I'm talking about 28, no, maybe 26, 27 years ago, there wasn't, Bengal art wasn't that popular. I think there was a lack of knowledge also. And yeah, so we did these exhibitions, annual exhibitions, and which was a huge success, so, under Montage Arts. And I continue to do that. I don't have a gallery, continue to do um I kind of for private collectors, I source and I sell yeah. So after, while I was doing art, I got into the export business, because I was exporting while I was married to Vishal. We were exporting fashion accessories. So that I kind of took over completely and started on my own. And this was basically fashion accessories. So it was a very successful fashion accessories export company, and I was supplying to some of the best fashion houses all over the world. And my first was Harrods for evening bags, which was, I'm like, oh, I must be doing something right if they wanted. And then I went into lots of other English brands, and I supplied to lot of actually designers. But then I went into the high street, was basically Zara, Mango, etc. And that became a huge business, because you can imagine the volume, etc., and kept me super busy. And while I was doing that, I met this gentleman from Dior, and through a common friend, who kept saying you have to Dior's opening, and John Galliano was on my mood board. I was such a fan of his, and I was like, Dior, like wow. Surreally enough, it's such a surreal story. Actually, the first time I was exporting still, lugging around suitcases of samples all over Paris, and I had got this great order. I felt a little chuffed, and I walked into Dior and bought my first luxury bag, which was the Lady Dior bag. I still have it. It's a black velvet Lady Dior with gold charms.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, and I felt very guilty spending all that money. And gave it to my mother. I said, Mom, I got you a present. And she's like, why? I'm like, no, no, no. Just and then I met this gentleman, and he basically I realized that he's been wanting to meet me. And
Wow.
I've been postponing it for months because, for me, I was just so crazily busy and working literally 17, 18 hours a day to send shipments out. It's a very difficult business, the export business. As a one-woman army, I still am. And I just wanted to get back home to this little child of mine going through, the separation and this and that and, legal. And it was a very difficult time and very taxing, physically, mentally. I just want to get home and be on time to, have dinner with her or read her a story before bedtime. And that was my struggle, was time. So I never went. So 6 7 months later I said, okay, let me just go. I went, and it turned out to be a life altering situation because, well, to cut a long story short, after 6 7 months I did get the job. I mean, I accepted the job because I was wondering, how am I going to take up a job like this as a job, because I already had a very successful career. So they were so keen, and they were so good to me. Dior's been so good to me, honestly. And they said, okay, you carry on with what you're doing, but try working with us and see. So I was the brand ambassador. I was actually the first brand ambassador, apart from Princess Beatrice in Spain at that
Okay.
time.
All right.
Yeah, so I mean, as a title, so it was quite an honor. I said, okay, let me try, and I did. And 4 years into Dior, I mean, 4 years into I mean, my export, and Dior being kind of overlapping rather. And the showroom was in my factory in Noida. I
Mhm.
still remember the first time Sonam Kapoor came with Ria to try out some of the Dior outfits that we were part of the movie Aisha. So it was a big thing, and those were the days. And I still remember her coming, and Tara was really little, sitting in my factory with all these Dior samples around, and styling her for Aisha, which was like a Dior ad. So that was Dior. And then I left Dior after almost 13 years with them, which was one of the most, it was completely, I can't even, I don't know what adjective to use, honestly, apart from saying that it was one of the most satisfying, one of the most fulfilling, and one of the biggest learnings that I've had on an international scale. I could have never had this kind of experience, to work with a house as absolutely a fabulous brand, but the people, the team, my team members, we're all in touch with each other, and it's just a relationship that one has built, and of course the experience. I mean, it's impossible to get this kind of experience otherwise, and I'm so lucky to have got it. So lucky to have got it. And yeah, so and then I left here because I started actually Lulu and Sky. There was a online fashion brand. The whole idea was to get um, high street, but a little up there, fashion, like fashion, because that's really I want to do something on my own. And I was picking up basically I had these investors and partners, and uh, the whole idea was to get the uh, best of all the fashion capitals, whether it's New York or London or Milan or Paris. and I also designed and manufactured in Delhi in a factory. And
Mm,
it was really successful. It's nothing like what it is today. I sold the brand. But at that time, you realize how much support I got from stylists, my stylist friends who'd worked with me at Dior for so long, all these stars who had put on the cover after cover and, dressed them and put them on the red carpet. And I mean, Alia Bhatt was so amazing. She became like my mascot at that time. Priyanka Chopra was something. And we were mentioned as a brand which is like 6 months old in the US edition of Vogue, because, of course, she was also wearing it, but the brand was mentioned. So, I got a lot of support. And I think, Sangeeta, this is one of my biggest wealth creations for myself are my relationships.
mm,
Every sphere of my life. And I think this is my biggest wealth are my friends. It's
mm,
not it's not contacts, this is very Delhi thing, like your contacts and who do you
yeah,
know. It's that my wealth are my friends, my wealth are my relationships, and
right.
genuine care and genuine love. I mean, I live in a city which is not known to be exactly very friendly,
Mm,
and but when people tell me this, I said, I've never faced that. I've
mm,
never ever thought that, because I mean, I came here and there's no semblance of family. Nobody probably knew where I came from, and we don't talk about these things, like,
yeah, yeah.
do you know who my dad is? Do you know who my grandfather is? You don't talk like this, not in Calcutta for sure. So,
Mm,
it's just, I was just somebody's friend who probably met you at a party, and, like, it was just that. And it just, and I built up relationships, and I have such an array of friendships across the city, actually, and different groups of people that I know, because of my varied interests and people I've known for since I came to Delhi. And it's just, that's my wealth, it's my relationships. And then of course, now I have this beautiful silver brand, which I'm super proud of. Um, it's 7 years old. It's called Rezon Silverware. And I'm back to manufacturing. It's so tough.
mm,
But I think I've created a very unique uh, market segment. I think nobody does what I do, and I see it with great confidence. I
oh,
have 1,900 products, which is
wow.
incredible. I half the time I'm making things for myself because I'm like, oh, how about a table lamp? I like caviar, so let's make a caviar bowl. Like literally from a cigar holder to a caviar bowl to thali sets to, and I love interiors. So, a lot of things for the interiors. So that's where I'm at. And my daughter's 25 years old, and I'm an obsessive mother.
Mhm.
She lives in London, works in the arts. No surprise there, actually. Wanted her to become a lawyer, actually. I said, show me the money, baby. But then she decided she wants to study art, and that's basically my life till now in a gist.
All right. Thank you. So fascinating to listen to the whole story of, how and where you are now. It's, and like I said earlier, so, so inspirational, because
Thank you.
women making a mark for themselves is not unique in that sense, but it is something which so many women want to look up to, want to be like. So when a story like yours, I'm sure it's going to, really resonate with a lot of our listeners and a lot of our viewers. So tell
And
me.
Sangeeta, sorry to interrupt. I've gone from one field to the other. I just want to say, sometimes people are afraid that, oh, now we're doing this, but it's not really working out. But, should I mean, experiment. It's never too late. Give it a try. You might fail, as I said earlier. You might fail, but that'll teach you something so valuable.
Absolutely.
But one is not to give up, and two is it's never too late.
Right.
Never too late to start something. And this is something I will tell every woman out there. It's
Mm,
never too late. You know, we keep kind of think that, oh my God, let the kids grow up, and then I'll maybe think of some. Why? What are you waiting for? They're in college. Are you sitting and doing homework with them? Are you expending as much time that you need to? It's just that I think a lot of women vacillate through life,
Mm.
and then you reach a certain age and saying, now, what will I do? The kids are married. It's never too late. And don't vacillate. If you can just take up even a hobby that you're good at, whether it's, I don't know, bake cookies, sell them to your neighbor. You might get 300 rupees, but it's going to be the most satisfying 300 rupees you will earn. So this is something I always tell women, that don't just do it. Just do it. I mean, give it a try, you know?
So, this journey that you've related and so beautifully, I'm sure there were lots of challenges, and especially as you were shifting from one thing to the other. And of course, you moved cities and all of that. So, if you could tell us a little bit about some of those challenges, and if you think some of those challenges were because of your gender.
Mm. So, not really. I think I've always, at work, I'll be very honest. I mean, there is no real, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my God, it was such a challenge and, such a struggle. I think my struggles have been genuinely from maybe what I'm doing. I struggle every day because of the kind of work I'm in. It's a huge challenge. Running a factory, manufacturing, retail, finding good, honest, sincere people. Oh my God, do you know what that's all about? So, those are the daily struggles of an entrepreneur, challenges of financial instability. I mean, this is something every entrepreneur will tell you. It's that, you keep I don't see money. I don't have a huge bank balance because whatever money I make gets flushed back into the company. And it's just the nature of my business, and there are challenges in anything you do.
Correct.
You're a housewife, you're having challenges with your staff,
Yeah.
your children, your in-laws, your husband. I don't know. There are challenges in every field,
Oh,
and that should not deter you from trying out something new. And
yeah.
that has always been my mantra. And of course, I've had, and not because of my gender. See, Sangeeta, gone are those days where you can be a pretty face.
Mm,
It may, put your foot through the door. But
okay.
how you can keep that door open
Yeah. Yeah.
is you are only as good as your product, end of the day. You're only as good as what you bring on the table. Nobody today has time to waste or money to
Yeah.
kind of invest in somebody who they know they're not going to get the return of investment from, no matter what it is.
Mm,
So I know my worth. I today know what I bring on the table.
mm, mm, mm.
I'm very confident of that. And, I have never been afraid of uh, kind of going out there. I'm a hustler. If I work really hard and I hustle from day to night. If I have to sell that one photo frame on a Sunday, today I went, my boutique was shut. It's a Sunday. And a friend of mine called to say, listen, I need a gift tomorrow.
Mm.
We are actually open on Sundays, but everyone's falling sick. So it was shut, to cut a long story short. I went to the boutique, I opened it, I took some pictures, I had a little video call with my client. I sold more than I bargained for, shut the boutique, came back. Now, these are stories and stories and stories. People have seen me dusting shelves and stuff. I said, This is my business." People,
Right.
say, who do we call? Can we call your team? I said, no. You want something, you call me. This is my business. I don't believe in, oh, my team and my assistant and all that. They're all there. They're all there. But you need
Yeah.
something, you're my friend, you call me. So it's just the way I operate. And because of my gender, I have never ever felt any less,
Okay.
because you see, respect, especially in business, is earned.
Right.
Respect in life in general has to be earned. This is one of the biggest lessons to be learned and imparted, honestly. I tell my daughter this: you cannot command respect, you have to earn respect.
Right.
Everyone who knows me. They can say what they want about me. People gossip. I've been single. I've had a very, let's say, fun life, and everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
But there is that little bit of respect because I am a self-made woman. I have a lot to say. I know what I bring on the table. I brought up my daughter on my own. I've sent her to the best school. I've never compromised a damn thing in her life.
Mm.
You have to have some respect.
Of course.
I think I have done more than most men I know who may have
Wow.
inherited whatever they have, and you know what it is. And they're very, very, and I'm very proud of that. I mean, I've grown up with a lot of complexes.
Mm, mm,
I have a lot of complexes. I have a lot of insecurities. I still do.
mm, mm,
And
mm.
because of what you go through, you walk into a room and you feel everyone's talking about you behind your back. I've
Yeah.
been through that.
Yeah.
And because of things that I've been responsible for may not have been the best decisions in my life. You just feel people judge you constantly and
Yeah.
they look at you in a weird way. And I, I don't know, maybe they still do.
Yeah.
But no one, at the end of the day, those at my age and stage of my life, I am on a healthy people diet,
Okay.
you know.
That's well said. Yeah. All right. Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
And that I think is very important. Where I've been a people pleaser all my life. I'm like, I just want to please everyone. I'm like, yes, 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 yes to everything. Take bullshit from people. Be treated badly. Be treated in a way that or be spoken to in a certain way where you don't, I mean, you can't, like, how did I allow that? How did I allow it? But I have had, because you say I have to live in this city. There are these people I have to live with. You have to take in a certain amount of. I have taken a lot of nonsense,
Hmm.
but at this stage of my life, I think I have the guts to say, hey, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't speak to me like this because I don't deserve it. So I can do that now, but yeah, I have had um it's been a journey. You don't just reach this stage.
No, you don't.
You
Definitely.
yeah.
Okay, so Kalyani, of course, challenges and setbacks and all of that we face in our lives. But then there are some people who come along and show us the path. They are our guides or mentors, or sometimes we take inspiration from. So if you were to look back on your life, can you pinpoint some people who you think mentored you, guided you, inspired you?
Yes, of course. When I left for Madras from Calcutta, I
Mm,
was so young, and you just don't take a job and go to another city, not from where I was coming from. And my parents were hysterical. I asked for a transfer because this great opportunity came up, and they were actually sending me to Bombay when I
okay.
was with Obra. And I said, please, 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 I just want to get out of Calcutta. And my parents, so anyway, I didn't take up Bombay. This hotel was coming up, the first Trident Hotel. There's so much excitement in the group. And my boss at that time, Melanie D'Souza, she's everything. She taught me so much about marketing, from how to shake someone's hand
Okay.
to how to speak and everything, everything, everything. She was my guru.
Hmm.
And she said, do you want to go to Madras? I'm like, geez, like, what's in Madras,
Hmm.
And and I'm like, yeah, yes, yes. I didn't tell my parents. And then when I told them, they were hysterical because I didn't know whether it was going to actually happen.
Hmm.
And they
Hmm.
said, not. We don't know anybody in Madras. I said, that's probably why I want to go there because you all don't want to. I used to live in like this Fort Knox, there's like
Mm.
this the home and whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to my grandfather and I said, I've got this opportunity to go to Madras and to set up this hotel. And I come from this business family, and he always wanted me to actually join his business, which I regret not doing in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so what's the problem? I said, no, because Ma's just kicking up a fuss. And my father's like, what on earth are you thinking? And why? And blah, blah, blah. And he went to my parents, he called them, he's saying, let her go. What are
Mm.
you scared of?
Yeah.
Just let her go. I
Mm.
mean, she knows she can come back anytime. Things
Yeah.
don't work. And my siblings are the ones who went to boarding school. They went abroad to, study, etc. I was the only one who was kept back in Calcutta. And I've never left Cal. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it was like, I don't know, something within me. I just wanted to explore.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, he said, no, let her go. Let her just explore. And this is an adventure that, either she'll love it or she'll hate it or she'll definitely benefit out of it one way or the other.
Okay.
And it's because of my grandfather and my grandmother who also was this very, very, very strong woman.
Mm.
I've grown up in a completely matriarchal society. And she's like, no, she will go. And
Okay.
my grandparents used to come to visit me much more than my parents ever did. They used to keep coming to
Mm.
Madras. I used to live in the hotel, so it was really convenient. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, so I started, the first time that I made such a major difference, I mean, major, massive uh, move or shift in my life to leave the comfort of a very comfortable home and environment. It's my grandparents actually who just said, and that generation
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
were forward thinking, and we were brought up in a very modern way of thinking,
Yeah.
and of travel. My grandparents travel so much. I mean, my nani, she got my dadi actually loved to travel.
Mm.
And she used to travel a lot with my grandfather. She got me my first string bikini when I
Okay.
was 13 to go
Wow.
to Calcutta and swim in. It was hilarious because my mother was horrified, and that bikini went into her cupboard, never to be found again. She was like, and she was like, that Italian guy was very cute. And, I didn't say it was for my granddaughter. I said it's for my daughter. I was like, okay.
Uh,
It was hilarious. She was so fun. But, so that's the kind of background I come from, which has
yeah.
been so fun, but so enriching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my grandparents, they've taught me so much. So I think answer your question, that kind of encouragement to go, experiment, to
Yeah.
explore, to encourage, to completely do something so different, at that point and
Yeah.
that generation. I
Right.
think I'm so fortunate to have had that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't, it just like, it was a very cultured kind of, um, I don't know. We used to, there was always, I think, dinner table conversations were so interesting for that matter. We used to all eat dinner together, and the kind of conversations I heard about the work stuff or the business, but it wasn't anything to do with money ever. It
Uh,
was always about so many other things, how to manage. It was all about man management. It was always about, oh, so and so's had an issue, and those days, maybe we should help them out, because I learned so much about giving back from my family. My mother was going to red light areas
mm.
in Calcutta. She was in Rotary Club. There was this flow, and she did Fiki and all that. She was ladies chamber, etc. Very, very involved, and a ladies study group rather. all that. And she used to go with, I mean, at that time, can you imagine living in a joint family in Calcutta? And it's my grandmother said, go, do it. And she used to go when AIDS, nobody even knew about.
Right.
But sex, about, we were hearing about AIDS, we didn't quite understand what it was, the gravity of it. She was distributing condoms,
Hmm.
so it was like, and my mother did a lot of charity work. And so I've also learned from that, and I've all my life I've done it in my own little way.
Right.
And you don't necessarily talk about these things, I do
Yeah.
my bit in my own way. And so these are the kind of things that I've learned along the way. And of course, there have been mentors. Of course, there have been people who have guided me with business, with advice. But honestly, Sangeeta, I think I've always fallen back mainly on myself.
Yeah.
And I have owned up to the mistakes I've made professionally, not professionally so much, personally, actually.
We all do. We
And
all do, which is absolutely
and
fine.
yeah, those are my doings, and I've owned up to it.
Yeah.
I I was a I was I mean, I'm not the kind of person who goes around trying to kind of beat my chest and gain sympathy, and
Right.
I'm the opposite. I would rather die than someone sympathize or
Mm.
feel sorry for me or
Yeah.
pity me. I'm not that person. I will never let you. I mean, I hold a lot back. And so everyone's like, oh, you're so brave. And I mean, I don't think I want to be that brave. I don't want to be, but I know I have gained my strength in leaps and bounds because of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I said, you make the mistakes, you have to recognize it.
Yeah.
First, recognize it, you have to acknowledge it and move on.
Yeah.
And my sense of resilience, I think, comes from that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So, of course, you have done so many various things in your life, and of course, setting up your business and all of that. So, if you were to offer three tips to any woman who wants to set up her own business, what are the three topmost tips that you would like to share?
It depends on what you really want to do.
Okay.
It it doesn't necessarily have to be with a huge amount of investment.
Okay.
If you don't have the funds,
Hmm.
choose something that does not require maybe that kind of funds. And I always tell people that, get the gain experience of
Okay.
a business, gain some sort of understanding of what you want to do. Young people come and they say, oh, we want to open a brand because they think they are so fashionable, which they are. They're very well turned out and they wear beautiful clothes. Doesn't mean you can just start your own brand and start a retail
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Or it's a lot that goes in there, whether it's the manufacturing, whether it's setting up that business, the amount of investment that is required to have a retail store, building a brand, and it's becoming more and more difficult.
Yeah.
So I feel that firstly, you have to nurture your talent.
Okay.
Now, I would love to open a restaurant. I know nothing about cooking. I
Hmm.
mean, water disappears on its own. I can't cook to save my life. You need to have little knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
like you would love to eat, but or you be in a position where, hey, I have the money to invest. I'm going to get the best chefs and the best people in to open a fantastic restaurant. So there are two sides of this.
Got it.
So it depends. Now, if you have the investment, seek your interest and get into it. But of course, that's another whole different kind of ball game altogether because a lot goes into it:
Yeah.
research, market research, what will work, what will not work, etc. But I would always say go into something that you're good at.
Okay.
Go into something which you can further enhance.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you can, like I said, if you're good at baking, start
Hmm.
from your kitchen. And it can start from a little business of baking cakes and just supplying cakes for birthday parties, maybe. And we know so many women
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
started like that.
Right.
And then maybe, get an investor and open a little bakery. Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
or you do flowers beautifully.
Right.
Start to maybe not necessarily like, becoming just doing flower arrangements and sending out, like I know friends who've done that. They make these beautiful flower arrangements, and then they've just become florists, and it's such a big business today because it's a talent that they have. I mean, give me the most exotic flowers and I'll make a mess out of it. But it's just, these are talents that people have.
Right.
So the advice that I would give women is that, one is, definitely look for something which you have a little bit of expertise in. It's easier to hone that. It's easier to kind of take that further.
Right.
Two is, when you then invest, if
Hmm.
you do invest, you have to, today, in today's world of competitiveness and what is around, what's away. There's a lot of research that goes in. So don't foolishly go and spend money on something without doing any groundwork as
Okay.
such,
Okay.
And the third piece of advice I will give is, if you want to do something, just do it. It doesn't matter if you fail.
Right.
Stop vacillating
Hmm.
and don't think that it's not the right time. Trust me, it is never the right time. Oh, I might get married. Oh, now I'm married. Oh, I'll have children. Oh, the children are too small. Oh, now they have to go to college. Now they are in college. Oh, now, but I have to get my daughter married. I mean, when is it the right time for you?
Yeah.
So I think for women, we tend to vacillate. And where I think there is an interest, or main thing, Sangeeta, I just feel that you need to have that little bit of hunger
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually want. And
Yeah.
hunger in the sense not of financial difficulties necessarily,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it is, you need to have that hunger to succeed. Also take up something which you want to excel in. Give
Hmm.
it your best shot. You may not be the best in the business, it doesn't matter, but you have to do your best. And that
Right.
financial independence, it doesn't matter who's your father or your grandfather,
Yeah. Yeah.
whose whose wife you are, who's your father-in-law, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Your financial independence is, this is our superpower. It
Yeah.
is every woman's superpower is our financial independence. And it's a different mindset. It's a different attitude you have towards life. It's our superpower. And I cannot stress on this more.
I totally agree. Financial independence is something, it is, as you rightly said, our superpower. It gives us the choice, the ability to
Yeah.
lead life on our terms. So, Kalyani, continuing in the same vein, if you were to come across, and of course you have your own daughter, but if you were to offer some piece of advice to the young girls of today, especially those, who are in the 18, 19-year, age bracket, and they are, looking to decide what they want to do personally and professionally, what would you like to tell them?
Get off social media. You
Okay.
know, this social media, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
We are all addicted to our phone. Today, there's so much of pressure on these young children. It
Mm-hmm.
is actually horrifying.
Yeah.
You are constantly, there's this feed into your Instagram from that these kids are on, and I can't say that it doesn't include me. It does include me as well. We've all addicted to our phones and this Instagram and this constant scrolling. Young children today, I think, are under so much pressure.
Yeah.
There are norms that they think they need to follow about how they look, what clothes to wear, the beauty business in general,
Mm.
pressure of being maybe something that you're not,
Yeah.
living up to your peer group, the expectations around you. It is so much pressure. It
Yeah.
is so much pressure. I mean, how does a young child going to college and may not have the means to buy different outfits? Now, one thing is to have an uniform to go to school. Imagine when you reach college and you're going to college. Now you have to look good, you have to look smart. There are boys, suddenly you're becoming aware that there are the opposite sex who are looking at you, and you have to be cool and you have to be well dressed. I mean, where do you get so many outfits when you're going to college every day? You
Right.
know, the pressure, the build up, and this constant feeding of information, it is so tiresome, actually. And I think there's a lot of, and this is where mental health comes into play. Young children today, they are just suffering in so many different levels, and they don't get proper guidance, they can't go to their parents, they don't know where to go to. I mean, it's a real issue, and it's a real problem, mental health at such a young age, where they should be only thing they should be worrying about is how to get good marks,
Yeah.
how to get through exams and do well.
Mm.
That should be the priority and the only thing to worry about, honestly, and giving it all. But look at all this other stuff. And then, of course, there's gender fluidity. Then there's, I mean, the pressures of that. The
Yeah.
awareness is amazing. And I think it helps, to be aware of who you are. But there's so much confusion
Yeah.
in young people's mind as well. They don't actually know even who they are sometimes. So I think we live in a time where there's too much information,
Mm.
and no parent is rationing that, you
Yeah.
know. And I think honestly there has to be some rule somewhere that you can't have phones or iPhones, or you have phones without having social media on them, or I don't know. I know it's not possible anymore,
Yeah.
but it's too much information out there, and I think it can be very daunting. And I think mental health is an issue which is prevalent because of which.
Okay. So basically, you're saying that the young people should be very off in the sense like, okay, be on social media, but there's somewhere they have to draw the line because otherwise, all this information can get to them and, can be too overwhelming.
You know, it is overwhelming, and I think, I mean, basically, I- I'm not here to give any advice to anybody or how to parent or whatever, but I think that's not something I would do. But I think a little bit of guidance, a little bit of cutback, a little bit of, I mean, I know mothers who are like, who don't, like watching television and watching which channels is monitored. Okay. Phones are monitored. So, I mean, there are ways to do it. But, the teenagers, it's the toughest.
Yeah.
And when you go from school to college, the transition, these are very tough years. And I think children today need that guidance.
Yeah.
And I feel every school, every educational institution today has counseling. you
Oh, yeah.
know it is something that I think more of an awareness about. It is absolutely okay to seek advice,
Yeah.
to seek help,
Mm.
to have someone to talk to who's not a parent, who's not a mother who's going to nag you,
Mm.
who's not a friend who will
Yeah.
judge you,
Mm.
okay, or someone who's going to talk further.
Right.
Go to someone who's one, it's their profession to help you, it is their unbiased opinion to help you. This is an awareness, I think, is the most important today, is the awareness of seeking mental health counselors at a very young age.
Right.
And this is something which is so important. Do you know, I was with friends last night. It's so interesting.
Mm,
They have a counselor. There's a
mm,
very stable, happy family, let me tell you, and more stable than most people I know. But they, twice a month, they speak to a counselor. They have 4 kids,
okay.
of how to be a parent, because the children of various age, and one going to college now, two going to college, one in school, one very small. I mean, how? I mean, it's like, wow. I
Mm,
mean, maybe I want to actually speak to this person, because, being a single parent, and sometimes I nag my daughter, and constantly, she's at that age where we're like driving each other crazy. But, I think this is such a valuable thing. Do you think only
yes.
children need to go for counseling, or your parents need counseling? How are you being, are you saying the same? Is your approach the right approach? Are you communicating properly? Communication is such a huge tool.
Mm,
Maybe I'm doing it all wrong. I don't know. I mean, we parents think we know everything. So you have conversations, you meet people, and you talk, and you have good, you learn so much. I mean, that's been my biggest takeaway in the recent past. I'm like, and I've actually asked for their number and everything, and I'm going to,
yeah.
because it's never too late, to rectify communication with your child, or I mean, I'm not afraid to say that.
Mm, 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 right.
So yeah.
So, Kalyani, another thing which, I mean, we see around us, I mean, women like you and so many others who've done so well for themselves, right? And other women who are aspiring to do. But though there are women who are making a name for themselves in different, areas and different fields, yet when we look around us, we see that there's a lot of bias, there is a lot of discrimination against women in particular. So, though we are making progress, I feel we still have miles to go. So, what are your views on this?
you know I, there is discrimination, I mean, for sure. There is no doubt about it. I mean, if you just see how many women who are CEOs of companies,
Yeah.
how many women who are um, in the top leadership, stature in corporates. Very few,
Hmm,
very, very.
hmm,
It doesn't say anything. I mean, it's this whole um, dialogue which you've heard so many times over, where women, if you are assertive, and even are strongly worded, some, to an employee, or to some a colleague or whatever, you're just labeled immediately into a horrible human being who's difficult, who's this, who's that. If it's a guy doing the same thing, if it's your boss, a man, then, oh, okay, someone you need to be a bit, scared of, maybe, but, with respect. And yeah, he's a tough boss.
hmm.
Who says that about a woman?
Right.
Woman's just, you know, so we treat women differently.
Yeah, yeah,
This is the problem. We, as a society, we women are treated differently.
yeah.
Nobody even knows the kind of work I do sometimes. It's all fluff, and I'm running around in Dior frocks and partying, and that's the image. But honestly, come see what I do all day. I have only women. My accounts is headed by women. My production is headed by a woman. I mean, but I have a very labor intensive manufacturing unit. So they're all guys. But I am the woman, and I'm the boss, and they listen to me. And again, I've earned their respect, because they see me working, and yeah, there's a discipline, and you have to assert yourself. So I've always done it. So
Hmm,
I honestly, Sangeeta, there's probably only once that, way back, actually, in Oberoi Hotel, funnily enough, where I actually went, and my boss was a woman. And there's this guy who has to do half his work, write his reports, has to do all his work because it's just so, anyway, not half as capable as I was. And he was there 6 months before me. But then when it came to getting an increment, he got a huge increment, which I had not got, which wasn't. And I found out about it and I was very upset.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned you have to go and voice your opinion, whether it's taken, not taken, whether you like, if maybe it's not appreciated, but you have to speak up. I learned that at a very young age. And I went to my boss and I said, you do know my record compared to this person's record. I'm not saying don't give him as any, an increment. He deserves it for whatever. Didn't know what for at that time. But I'm like, why is it almost double? And I am doing 20 times more work. I have set records of my particular this thing, which and I just went and I spoke up. And they did do something about it. But I think that's the only time that I felt that why is because he's a guy and why because I don't know. But it ended with that because I ended it.
Right.
I went and did something about it and I ended it. And I am very vociferous when it comes to this because personally, I've taken too much nonsense in my life. Professionally, I've never let that happen. I don't know, I've balanced it out very funnily. And you're asking me this question, I'm thinking about it as I talk. I've always balanced it out. I mean, my personal life is a different matter altogether. But at work, no, don't mess with me.
All right. That's so heartening and so great to know. So tell me, when it comes to voicing, such things and, what you've done and how you did it. So what role do you think women's voices, women's platforms can play in, influencing societal norms? When you come and talk like this, how is that going to impact? That's what I mean.
I I hope I do impact. I have had a very strong follower of in my Instagram. I don't have a million followers, but they're all organic.
Mm.
And I have 90% of my followers are very young girls, and the age group is between 18 and 24. It's
Wow.
it is 45% of my followers. Can you believe that?
Mm.
And women otherwise. And I've been like, now, of course, because of Netflix and everything, I get recognized. But I've always had women coming up to me, young girls coming up to me. And also, they love my story. They find it inspirational. So I've always had that, and I get the sweetest of DMs, like, and when I post, I write these essays, God knows who's reading them, but try and make it a bit meaningful, not everything, but all this while I have really every post, there's a story to tell. So if you make a difference with your opinion, when I speak about something, when I talk about something, that one person it impacts. And I'm literally like a therapist on my DMs, women who've got going through a divorce, going through separation, anxiety, they have a little child, long message, and I have the patience to sit and answer to these ladies, to these women. If I happen to come across something which really matters, I have all the time in the world. And sometimes I've done, is it really Kalyani who's replying to this? Or is it a team? I said, no, darling, it's Kalyani. Do you want me to FaceTime you? So, like people don't believe it that it's me, but I'm like, no, this is me and whatever. And literally, I've done it so many times over. And I feel very strongly about this, Sangeeta, because I have carved a niche for myself. I have come into again a city which is not where I'm from, no family, and I have a life which is so beautiful in Delhi. The kind of friends I've made, the kind of support system. If I didn't have that, I don't. It's impossible to survive. So, and it's women who supported me. And I also say women are sometimes women's worst enemies. But the fact is that my band of women, my girlfriends, my women friends, they're amazing. I have friends who are 3 a.m., 4 a.m. guys and women and men who are there. So I'm very fortunate. But I think if I can make an impact on anyone's life, that one person who can listen to me, and I would always say, there's such a lack of awareness of women's rights.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
such a lack of awareness of being in an abusive relationship,
Hmm.
and there is a way out.
Yeah.
There are support systems.
Yeah.
The it is very strong. It is very strong in our country. I mean, we don't realize it. It is something that can be taken up, and you will be protected.
Yeah.
Women, but there are so many things that are attached to this societal pressure, family pressure. It's a very long conversation about that in general, but um, I am very, very vociferous about my opinions. I'm very vociferous about what I feel is right, what I feel is wrong,
Yeah.
and I am very strong in terms of giving my opinion. I mean, I am very opinionated. I think we Bengalis generally are, but
I think it's
I
to be, sharing and expressing yourself and your opinions. I think it's very important.
Yeah, yeah, I think it, you have conversations. I mean, you go out every evening, we socialize, and it's much like the way we met, you and I, Sangeeta.
Yeah.
We got into an interesting conversation, and then you said, "Oh my God, this is so relevant to what we were discussing."
Yeah.
And you said, "I have a podcast, and you have to be part of it." So it's like when I go out, I mean, sometimes you just want to be banal, you just kind of have a good time, and you're not there to kind of exercise your gray cells and be a pseudo intellectual. But sometimes you come back and you say, wow, that was something,
Yeah.
and those are the kind of evenings which I really enjoy. Yeah.
So yeah, so you're right. When you talk about it, when you're reaching out, people are reaching out to you, when you were helping them, it is going to make a difference. So I think when we have these kind of platforms or these kind of conversations, it definitely some impact. It may be a drop in the ocean, but then it is a drop, and all these drops together will make the ocean.
But
So yeah.
yeah.
So all right. So just so like any other woman, there is your work life and there is your life at home. I mean, especially when your daughter was growing up. So how did you integrate these two sides of your life?
It was this is something of a, well, in a way, it's a strong word, regret.
Mm.
I kind of do feel terrible about the fact that I was only working while my daughter was growing up. Those were formative years, and I wish I could rewind time to maybe spend more time with her, but it wasn't possible. It's like I remember Tahira one day, she was a bit upset, not she was teary-eyed. She's saying, Mama, I went to this birthday party and all the mamas are there, and you're the only mama who never comes for birthday parties. And my heart broke. And I said, okay, darling, so do you want to go again this summer to Disney and meet Mickey and Minnie? So she said, yes, Mama, like we go every summer now, because my sister used to live in Florida. And so, oh my God, Mickey and Minnie every summer and Disneyland. So I said, darling, Mama has to make sure that we go for that holiday. So
Mm.
Mama has to work. So if you want to meet Mickey and Minnie again, Mama has to go to work and not come for birthday parties. I don't think she ever asked me to come for another birthday party after that. So it was a mother's guilt for
Yeah.
sure till I went to her school, and before she left for England,
Mm.
she was in class 5, I think, and there was this wonderful principal that she had in Sri Ram school, and she said, she called me into her office, had gone to say hello, and she said, I see you coming every morning to
Mm.
drop your daughter.
Yeah.
You're here for basketball practice at 6 in the morning.
Mm.
You're just everything, you're there for your daughter, and you come running in to pick her up and surprise her sometimes when you can, but you
Huh.
have this guilt about you, Kalyani. I was like, no, 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 no. Why are you saying this thing? I know. Saying,
Mm,
are you a guilty mother that
mm,
you're a working? Of course, by the end of it, I was like crying and stuff.
mm.
Yeah. You see, do you realize that every teacher, including me, we're
Yeah,
all mothers
yeah,
and
yeah.
we all come to work.
Yes.
So, feeling guilty because there will come a time when your child will appreciate what you're doing for her. And
Right.
today, I think my daughter really has, she has this independence within her, and she's so independent from a very young age. Of course, the fact that she's a boarding school kid and all that, but in even other ways, and her whole, perspective towards life, that, and it's all come from that, seeing
Yeah,
her mother work. And
yeah.
she's so mindful about money she spends. She's so mindful about her expenses and just the way she is. I mean, she's very different from most of these kids also because she earns her own money. I don't pay a penny. She earns her own. She survives on the salary she earns,
Wow.
which is incredible. Yeah, and which is not much actually,
Yeah, but
but she
they
does.
learn it. So you integrated it by communicating to your daughter that this is what I am doing. And I think at a very young age, she understood. So I think, having that clarity in your mind and then being able to tell your child, I think that helps a lot, which I guess happened in your case, right?
Sangeeta, I think you have to lead by example.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know, children are also a product of their environment,
Yes.
and I think solely on their upbringing.
Right.
And I mean, my daughter comes from a broken family, divorced parents. She's been through a lot. She's seen a lot. But at the same time, her father and I have co-parented always, and we're really good friends now. We co-parent. We're always there together. We go on holidays together, etc. Tara's grown up knowing that her parents really love her, and the fact that she's our only priority, our
Right.
biggest priority. So
Right.
she has always had that. She's always had that stability in terms of there's absolutely no doubt in her head that her parents um, are, together
Yeah.
as far as she's concerned.
Right.
And her parents are always going to be there for her individually and together as well. So that's, I think, a very big factor. And this is something also I tell a lot of my friends when they are going through divorces and separations that don't make it nasty and subject your children to it because as it is they are the biggest collaterals.
Yeah.
The damage that they go through no matter what you do is colossal, and
Right.
it's a lifelong thing that, I mean, nobody from a broken family can say that the child has not been affected. It is absolutely not true.
Mm.
But how much only depends on the parents. And this is something I tell anyone who wants to listen and anyone who I have the opportunity to advise that don't make it nasty and stop calling each other names in front of the children. I mean, I used to drive out of my house and talk to my lawyers because I used to get hysterical or scream or whatever. I never wanted Tahira to hear me, never wanted her to know what I'm going through. Or, and children, she was very young, and children are like sponge, they pick
Yeah.
up things. So yeah, I protected her as much as I could. But this is one thing that I feel every parent going through this should be very, very mindful of for the
Right.
children. It's very important.
So
Yeah.
therefore, when you had to work, in the sense you're working earlier also, but then when you separated, you communicated that to your daughter. So I think in some way that also helped you deal with the guilt because you knew what you were doing was right. And, when that
I
happened, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to really communicate anything to her. She just saw us like, I mean, for example, I mean, Vishal had visitation rights, and I never followed it. I'm like, please come and go anytime you want to meet your daughter. I mean,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. So I never followed that. I mean,
Hmm.
I see parents today who don't let the children see their father. I mean, what is this? How can you do that?
Yeah.
Whether he can be the biggest idiot on earth, he can be the biggest loser on earth, you can't change the fact that that's the father. So these are things which have very long-term repercussions, which are not healthy at all.
Yeah.
So I've been very conscious of that because I have seen when I was in school, couple of my friends one who became completely epileptic because of this kind of nastiness it was terrible. I mean, we were all witness to it on both sides of uh, her parents.
Hmm.
And she suffered major health issues because of that. Another set of, so when I was young, I've seen a lot of really, really negative, negative things that have happened on a long-term basis, whether, it's showing on their health, etc. So this is something I was very, very conscious of when I was going through this with Tahira. I was very conscious of it. So I've always like, your father's a fabulous person, your father's amazing, and father loves you so much. And I mean, she was very young, she was like barely 2 years old, so it was tough. But yeah, and it's never the right age, whether they're young, whether they're older, it gets even tougher. So it's never the right age for any child to go through this.
So tell me,
Hmm.
Kalyani, what does the future hold for you? What are your future plans? What's next?
Oh my God, I don't think I've ever planned for anything in my life.
Okay.
I'm like this roller coaster, and there is a higher power out there who's always testing me, who's always putting me through situations which I sometimes have these outer body experiences saying, oh my God, is that me doing that? Or having been through that, honestly, I feel that all the time. I've become quite spiritual in my way of thinking.
Okay.
I've never been religious as such. I hate any sort of rituals, and tell me something to do ritualistically, and I'm going to run in the opposite direction. But I pray every day, and of course, I have faith in a higher power and energy that surrounds us. What do I have in the future? I just think I need a little bit time to myself, which I haven't really had
Okay.
all my life. I
Okay.
have worked and I have worked and I have worked very, very hard for a very long time, very long time. I'm a bit exhausted of that. But, I don't know my life any other way. So
Hmm.
that's a big bonus that I don't know my life any other way. I've always worked, I've always earned my own, I've always been financially independent. If I don't, I mean, I just need to kind of probably spend a little bit more time to do things that I enjoy. Like I've gone back into playing sports, for example. I'm making time to
Yeah.
go play squash. I love playing squash. So I'm making time now to go play a bit of sports. That's my me time. I forget that 1 hour I'm just hitting balls and just being competitive and trying to beat my opponent. And that's all I'm thinking of. And so I am finding little joys in, I love to travel. So this year, 2025, is my year of travel, of going to places I haven't been to.
Okay.
Um, yeah, literally and metamorphically. So, but
All right.
let's see. Yeah, places I haven't been to, and exploring, going, having new adventures. And yeah, I think 25 is looking up, looking great. I hope I can spend more time with my daughter this year. Um, and we always go for these really fun holidays. So yeah, travel is actually my hugest indulgence.
All
So I
right.
made a plan for myself for a few things and few places to visit this year.
Okay.
So, inshallah, it'll happen.
Of course it will. All the best to you. All right.
Mhm. Thank
So,
you.
Kalyani, while we have come to the end of the conversation, we still have the rapid fire round where I'll ask you five quick questions and five quick answers from you.
Cool.
So, all set?
All set.
All right. So, the first one, describe yourself in three words.
Resilient, adventurous,
Okay.
um, um, what's the third word? Seeking.
Okay.
I'm always seeking.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
The next one, a book or a movie that has inspired you.
I think all of Jhumpa Lahiri's books.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Jhumpa Lahiri
So am I.
because, yeah, and she's, I kind of relate to, she's so amazing at the storytelling that she does. And it's a NRI story, but from a Bengal, a person, the woman is such a strong character always in her book, and they're all Bengalis from Calcutta. It's just amazing, her power. And actually, that's one thing I want to do, is write a book. So I mean, she's my biggest inspiration. So another book that I absolutely loved and actually impacted me
Mhm.
while I was reading it, and the book that really impacted me was A Fine Balance by
Okay.
Rohinton Mistry. Very, very, very beautifully written book. Yeah, it's a very important time, uh, during the 70s emergency period. Very, very beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. The next one, one thing you wish more people knew about you.
How nice I am. And no, I think people's perception of me is so varied. There's so many conversations that I get into with unknown people and saying, "Oh my God, you're so different from what we thought you were." I said, "What did you think I was?" People. One is that, of course, they don't think I'm approachable. They don't think I am as affable as I am, I think. Yeah, so
Yes,
once you
you are.
meet me and once you get to know me, I think the perception of me and what I am is very different to what I really am. So get to know me, guys, before you judge me.
All right. The next one. What is that one thing that you always have in your handbag?
Oof, credit cards. I never have cash. So
Okay.
absolutely a credit card. Yeah. And
Oh,
obviously my phone.
yes.
There
And
are
the
many
last
things
one.
in my bag.
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
mean, women, I think our bags are like, oh my God, like a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
We have so many things there.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one. One luxury item you can't live without.
Um, I think a luxury item I can't live without has got to be my phone, I
Okay.
guess. I mean, I don't know, my a good phone, because I take a lot of pictures.
Okay.
Um, so I like to upgrade my phone whenever a new one comes up, because as functional as I am sometimes, but I take a lot of photographs for my work on my phone myself.
Okay.
All the stuff you see a lot on my stories, and it's all taken by me. So yeah, I think, yeah, that's one.
All right.
It's a luxury, I'm sure.
It is a
Yeah.
person. All right. So, Kalyani, we now come to the end of the conversation, finally the end, and if I may say so, absolute pleasure and so inspirational. I mean, so many things that I picked up from the conversation, and I was thinking that most of us go through some kind of struggle, some kind of challenge, and if you get to hear someone like you, who's kind of looked at every challenge as an opportunity and grown from there. I think that would really, really help. So thank you for your words of wisdom, for these nuggets of wisdom that you've given us. And great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I hope I have inspired somebody out there.
I'm sure we just don't realize, but someone out there will definitely get inspired. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the About Her show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the About Her show.